Hey everybody, welcome back to Prince's Friend, exploring music through Prince. Today is going to be the last video of our Sign of the Times review. This time we're going to be talking about the book itself, this giant massive tome here that we have as part of this big collection. So if you like what we do here, and we've been reviewing this album for a while here, if you like things like this, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification, so you always know when we release new videos. And let's go ahead and get into the review. So the first thing I wanted to do, obviously, was look at what exactly are we getting out of this. So first off, we have the most unique tapestry, a foreword by Lenny Kravitz. We have The Last Sane Man on Earth, a conversation with Dave Chapelle, Everybody Still Wants to Fly by Daphne A. Brooks, Who in This House Know About the Quake, which is by Andrea Swenson, Tonight We're Gonna Lose Our Sorrow, Tonight We're Gonna Have Some Fun by Susan Rogers. Then we have some lyrics, and then we have some music, which was by Dwayne Tudal, and we went through a lot of that throughout the entirety of our review. So we won't be really touching on that too much. So I guess the first thing to say is just like, yes, this book is very big, and while I appreciate the size and how amazing this kind of whole collector's edition is as something like to know that I own and that it is pretty awesome to own it. I would say that the size kind of made it a little bit difficult to read. Like, it was just so big. Like, I had to like clear a whole space in order for me to read it. I couldn't just hold it, you know, casually on my couch. I would also say too that the fact that the CDs and everything are in here as part of the book, as part of the packaging, that kind of makes it also a little unwieldy and makes it less likely that it would serve as a good coffee table book, because it's not necessarily going to be all that good, because if somebody handles it wrong, the discs can fly out and get scratched. I mean, there's so many different things that could happen. I know for a lot of people, when the set came out, they actually had scratched up discs because they got jostled in shipping. So obviously the same thing would probably happen if it was just a random coffee table book. So with my initial thoughts on the book itself, like the construction and size and all that stuff out of the way, let's go ahead and talk about what's in it. The first thing is a most unique tapestry, which is a foreword by Lenny Kravitz. I thought it was very sweet, it was well written, and I thought set the stage pretty well for what we were going to get out of this box set. I also want to say that a lot of the photography in here is just simply amazing. Prince had such a good look around this time. It was just like, so good. So the first article that we have in here is The Last Sane Man on Earth, which is from a conversation with Dave Chapelle about Prince. They asked Dave, like, you know, what was it the first time that you listened to Sign of the Times, and what's the nostalgia attached to this album? Dave shares some stories that I've heard in other places about how Prince was kind of one of the only people who even cared about him or tried to contact him when he quit comedy about, oh gosh, like over 15 years ago at this point. So that's pretty awesome. I love the acknowledgement of their friendship and how Prince did have a way of reaching out when he knew that his friends needed that additional support, which is kind of opposite of some stories that you also hear from other people who might not have had such a great relationship with Prince. The title of the article comes from something that Prince apparently told Dave Chapelle, and that's that the last sane man on earth will feel like he's crazy. And I thought that that was pretty cool. Honestly, I think that the whole conversation, and it's in a conversational back and forth between Dave Chapelle and Matthew Bitton, who was kind of interviewing him for this section. I thought it was really well done. So I think that part was really good. The next article was Everybody Still Wants to Fly by Daphne A. Brooks. I have to say, I like the approach of having an article in here that talks about the political and social craziness that was happening around the time where this album came out and its place in it. As a writer myself, and I'm a publisher, so I also read other people's writing, what I would say is that this article is very good, but is kind of overwritten. By overwritten, I mean there's a lot of similes, there's a whole lot of extra wording that doesn't necessarily need to be there. It's evocative, and it's, again, well written, but I think that they could have written it in plainer language to get their point across more. I also feel like possibly the article was using too much of its word count to talk about other artists and their contributions to the political and social thing. And I understand why they would want to do that, because they would want to compare and contrast how Prince was influencing things versus how these other artists and stuff were influencing things. But I feel like a lot of time was spent on that article doing that. I mean, I know what it means to write to spec. I mean, when you got so many words that you need to write, you got to hit that word count. The next one was Who in This House Know About the Quake?, which I thought was a really good article written by Andrea Swenson. And it was an article about kind of the upheaval between the Parade album and the Sign of the Times album that led to the Sign of the Times album coming out in the form that it did. I would say that this one was probably the best of the articles. I think that it really gave you a great rundown of what he was doing in his regular life, what he was doing musically, how his interactions with the bands were. There's quotes from many people from different pieces of his band and people who were around him at the time. So I thought it was actually really, really well written. Andrea Swenson knows what she's doing. I thought it was very good. I'm not going to give anything away. I will just say that I think it does maybe talk a bit too much about the personal relationships that Prince was having, but I get why, because those things were relevant to the music that he was making at the time and the emotional state that was fueling a lot of the choices that he was making in that moment. And even with my critique, I would say that part is even still very well written and takes direct quotes from people who were around him to give more context, and it doesn't come off as overly academic. So I really, really like it. It's not dry at all. It's a really good read. Then we get a series of amazing photos. Some of them have been going on the screen while I've been talking, so there's that. Oh my God, there's so many really great ones in here. Again, he's so photogenic, and a lot of the imagery of this time was iconic, I will say. The last proper article that we get is from Susan Rogers, who was his engineer around this time. And I really enjoyed her accounts here, where she was talking about how they would record for, long periods of time. And what I'll say about it is that it wasn't necessarily anything that she said specifically that I really dug, but more just the sense that it kind of reaffirmed what we already knew about Prince, was that essentially the music was what mattered and how it made you feel, and how even things that are imperfect can be pretty amazing. And she tells a lot of really great stories in here. But one thing that I learned from a conversation with my friend Alcy is that a lot of the stories that are in here from Susan Rogers were also stories that she told on the Sign of the Times podcast. So if you've listened to that, you kind of know some of these stories already, but really, really fun things. And again, shows us the real creativity that it takes to put out music in a way that Prince did. Then we get some lyrics. But I had said this about the 1999 and the Purple Rain Deluxe editions, is that they gave us the lyric sheets in the booklet, but the booklets were so tiny. At least here, now they're huge. They're on big paper, even bigger than the actual paper. So they have some of these are two on the same page. And I think that that's actually really cool, because we can get in there and we can look at like, ooh, he had first written that word and he changed it and turned it to this word and all that stuff. And we can get kind of silly with it. I mean, I look at my own lyric sheets and I'm just like, man, I make so many weird like alterations, and I don't start a brand new page or anything. I just cross it out and write over it. So it's pretty similar to what Prince does. So that makes me feel closer to him in that way. And then, as just a last aside, I do want to go ahead and commend Dwayne Tudal for all of the really intricate and meticulous information that he gave about a lot of the songs here in the music section of the booklet, where he really is kind of breaking down what each of the vault songs is, and like the arrangements and why they exist and why they weren't used and stuff like that. Really, really great information for anybody who is, a Prince head and is like really, really looking to like know about each of these songs more in depth. And again, like, I think that I still think that it focuses a little bit too much on, well, Prince was really sad about Susanna, so I mean, there you go. That's why this song, it's like, I would be more interested in like the messaging and like, was it just about Susanna, or was there more? Did he do weird, interesting musical techniques and whatnot? But I get the story that they were trying to tell here. So, I mean, it's not bad. I enjoyed every minute of it. So as a reviewer, I have to come up with critiques. If I just like jumped on the screen and said, everything is great, Like, that's not an entertaining video. I have to say it's amazing and then just contradict myself entirely. That's just how this works. So in conclusion, let's go ahead and just talk about this entire set as a whole. You know, we have Sign of the Times remastered. That was something that I had said we have needed for a long, long time. There's something about Sign of the Times and like the volume of it and the arrangement and stuff. Like, it's one of those really classic albums that has always kind of needed to be updated. And I think that they did a really good job with the overall remastering of this thing and making it a special package. The inclusion of the B-sides and stuff being remastered to Primo, the addition of so many vault tracks, the live CD and the live DVD. Honestly, when I look at the price that it was when it first came out, it was like $150 for this CD set that I got. I mean, that's a really good price for as much as you got. So I can't even be mad. I know a lot of people are like, well, you know, it was too much and I hope the next one's cheaper. And I'm like, you know, if they can keep up with this kind of level of quality, I could drop 150. I'd be okay with that. I mean, it's not that much. I've seen more expensive things, especially since I don't buy vinyl. And if you bought the vinyl, that was double, you know, if I think possibly more than double. But if you think about it, for what you're getting, the price is good. The quality is amazing. Now, I'm wondering if on the next deluxe set, if they scale it back and they possibly don't go as giant as they did on this one, but I wouldn't be surprised if they did. But what do you guys think about the Sign of the Times Super Deluxe, the whole thing, but specifically in this video, what is all in the book? Let me know about all of that down in the comments. Also, don't forget to hit like, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell notification so you always know when Prince's Friend releases a new video. If you want to become a patron or a YouTube member, there are links in the description, and that really helps out the channel. In the meantime, may you live to see the dawn. I love you all. I will see you in the next video where we don't have to talk about Sign of the Times, but we probably will.